we're just going to be documenting how this Victron is working for us here. So we have our AC current limit set to 15 amps. Now 10 amps times 120 volts AC is 1200 watts. So this is about 1800 watts. So you can see right here we're currently pulling about 1331 volt amps, which is like a watt, but different. So we can see that we are outputting 10 amps for the heater. If I go ahead and unplug the heater right now, we can see how these values change. That value there is at 0 now, because we have no other AC devices running other than like the LED of the microwave. And you can see now that our charging has increased to 20 amps. So as I go ahead and plug it back in, you can see that charging has reduced itself down to 5 amps, and the current IO out is at, let me get the mouse out of the way, 10.2.
What kind of pizza do you like?
So as we can see right here, we're pulling 1270 volt amps, which is volts times amps, which is kind of like a watt, but again, not the same. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and change this setting over here down to 10. And we're going to hit OK. And then we can see these values here, so I'm going to go ahead and hit send. And we can see instantly that our IDC value dropped to 0 and our volt amps went down just a little bit. Because we are running this heater, it's not allowing us to pull any less power to run it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to switch this heater out for a smaller heater which runs less power, and we're going to see how that guy does. So right now we are pulling 500 watts into the heater. This is actually reading at 703 volt amps. However, our device right here, oh, can we see this? No, we cannot. It's not showing up on camera. It's actually pulling about 500 watts. So if we go ahead and just pull that guy, you can see how the charge current automatically jumps up to 21 amps, which is the maximum, because we actually set it to be 20 amps as the current falls. So as we go ahead and plug that back in, we're going to go ahead and see that value drop down to 14. So now if we go here and let's change this value to something lower, let's do 7.8, which I think is a value that it'll accept. Yes, it did. So you see it dropped our IDC value down to 3 amps. So we're only charging at 3 amps so that we don't pull more than 840 volt amps from the mains. So this is reducing our current flow so that we don't blow the mains breaker that we're connected to. And by the mains breaker, I would mean like this is where we're hooked into the garage, so we would trip the breaker in the garage if we were to pull too much power from this system. Now the issue that we were having was our AC input current was not limiting for us, but I think that actually might be related to the mains issue. So if I go ahead and unplug our heater here, we're now charging at 14, 18, 20. Probably 20 amps very soon. With 7.8, which is 20 amps, is 40 volts. I want to know if I can go ahead and lower this down and get this value to be reduced.
So are you making this video for me?
Yes I am. So now we sent that and we see over here that our value for charging is still at 20. It has not been reduced. So if we were to take this value here and drop this down to like 2.2 and then go ahead and send it, we see that we do not get a reduction in charging like I was hoping for previously. It stays the same, pulling 4 amps from the AC side while delivering nothing on the output. And ideally I would like to have that limited like it's supposed to be, but that's not functioning at this moment, and I am unsure as to why. So let's go ahead and switch this value over to 8, a high enough value that we know we're going to see results. And we're going to go ahead and send those settings. And now we're going to go ahead and take our charger and we're going to go ahead and up that to 40. 44. We're going to go ahead and send those settings. So we see our charger went up to 25 and now 35. Amps, huh? So it seems to be respecting that limitation of 7.6 amps right there. So let's go ahead and make another change here. Let's go ahead and modify this to 12. And then we're going to go ahead and send it. And then we're going to see an increase, just like we're supposed to be. So now we're going ahead and we're actually pushing 43 amps, which I think we're actually hitting the maximum. So if I go to charger, and I change this over to 66, and I go ahead and I send it, we're going to see these values over here go ahead and increase to the point where we're going to be a little under 12 amps. And now if I go here back to the grid, starts general, and let's go ahead and up this to 15, which is kind of what you would put it at if you were plugged into a garage outlet and nothing else was on it. And we're going to go ahead and send it. And we see our power here is going up a little bit. Actually only went up by 20 volt amps. 52. Not much of a change, oddly enough. Not really sure why. Hmm. 70 it is. Send it. So At this point, I'm not really sure why it's not sending anymore. Maybe that's just what it wants to be doing. But as we can see, there is some configurability in this. We're going to go ahead and drop this value down to something more respectable, like 20, and then send it. And we're going to see our values here drop down correspondingly, down to 20. So then this cuts our input power to about 500 watts. So this is functioning, but not down to the lower limit that we're looking for. We were really hoping to get this thing limited to the 500 watt range, and this is just not happening. We're not, the limitation control is only working at 7 amps, which is like 1,000 watts and higher for the AC input side, which was not something that was ever discussed or advertised. And I just wanted to document the functionality of this limitation, and prove that it is functioning, but not in a complete way. And I'm just looking for answers on why that is the way it is. Let's go into configuration, because I know everyone's going to ask. So we have a Servo GX, which is connected to the multi-plus there, and then the USB cable is the white one, and then the BMV connects to this over the VE direct cable. The solar controller will connect over the cable that will arrive tomorrow. And we have this smart dongle here, plugged into the multi-plus, supposedly doing its thing. So that's how we have it all hooked up.